This movie is about error checking. We're going to find out how to enable or disable the automatic error checking. We'll be able to set a custom color for the indicator. We'll look at the smart tag that Excel presents when there is an error. We can choose to ignore errors. We can reset and change some of the error checking options. We can reset the errors we've chosen to ignore. We can use a handy feature to convert numerical text to numbers. And if we disable the automatic error checking, we still have the option to manually check the worksheet for errors. So I've got a worksheet set up with a couple of errors. One of them is very obvious. It's divided by 0. You can't divide a number by 0. That's why we're getting that error message. When I left-click on cell C11 and press F2, I have C10 divided by C9, which is 0 divided by 0. Mathematically impossible. I'm going to click off of that, and up in the upper left-hand corner of the cell, there's a little green triangle. That's Excel at work doing the background error checking and indicating those errors with a green triangle. To either enable or disable this functionality, press Alt-FT, left-click Formulas, and in the error checking group, we have by default Enable Background Error Checking turned on. Right under that, we have the option to choose a color for the errors. The default is green. I'll leave it at green, but we can change it to something that may stick out a little bit more like red, for instance. I'm going to left-click OK and go back into the worksheet and select C11. When I select C11, we get a smart tag as a result of this error checking that provides us some information. First, it tells us what the error is, divide by 0 error. Secondly, it gives us a place to go to get help on the error. If I left-click that, I'm taken to Excel Office Help. I'm going to close that. Left-click the smart tag again. We also have the option to show calculation steps. This is a simple formula, so there aren't many calculation steps. There's another movie about this functionality, Evaluate Formula, that you can refer to find out some details on how this works. So I'm going to close this, go back to the smart tag again. We can choose to edit the formula in the formula bar. The cursor shows up in the formula bar at the end of the formula, where we can then perform some editing functions. I'm going to escape out of that. Go to the smart tag again. We can left-click Ignore Error, and the error message goes away, as well the green triangle in the upper left-hand corner of the cell. Selecting another cell with an error. Now this is a different error, number stored as text, but we have the same option as we had before at the bottom, which is Error Checking Options. And when I left-click that, we're taken to the Excel Options dialog box, where we can deselect some of the error checking rules. There's 8 of them that are turned on by default. There's a 9th one that you can activate and turn on. And we can also, if we get to a point where we want to reset our errors and have the indicator displayed in a cell again, click Reset Ignored Error, and cell C11 will redisplay that green triangle, and once again we'll get the smart tag that we had before. So the background error checking can help you resolve errors. It can also help you do something else that you might find the need to do. And I'm going to select E9 to E11, so it's a range and not just a cell. And the error in all of these cells is number stored as text. It's left justified. It looks like a number. It's actually not a number. I can't do any math on these numbers because they're not numbers, they're text. And it gives me an option to resolve this by left-clicking Convert to Number, and Excel will convert all of those text fields to numbers. When I select them again, I can see in my status bar that I've got a numerical count of 3, so these are now no longer text, they are numbers. You also have the ability to turn this functionality off. Alt-FT, Formulas. I can deselect Enable Background Error Checking, say OK, and of course my error message that was in C11 disappears. And after having done that, you still have the option in the Formulas tab, in the Formula Auditing group, to perform some error checking, where you can have Excel check for errors, and we get a dialog box presenting some of the same options that we had on the Smart tag. We can left-click Options, and we're taken to the Excel Options dialog box. I'm going to cancel out of that and close that dialog box. And left-click the drop-down and left-click Trace Error. And Excel will visually display what cells are being referenced that are causing the error to display in C11. To get rid of those arrows, left-click Remove Arrows. So you can have Excel automatically check for errors, or if you turn it off, you can manually check for errors and access all the same functionality. So that was error checking. We found out we could enable or disable automatic error checking. We could change the color of the triangle that shows up in the cell when an error is flagged. When we do have an error, we have a Smart tag where we have a number of options on how to deal with the error, where we can get some information on the error as well. We can choose to ignore the error. We have 9 error checking options that we can turn on and off. If we have some errors that we've ignored, we can reset those errors to be redisplayed in our worksheet. The automatic error checking has some convenient functionality where we can convert numerical text fields into numbers, which is helpful if you have the cause to do that. And when you download data, you may run into this problem. And if we choose to turn off the automatic error checking, we always have the manual error checking, which presents us with the same functionality.